A Victorian breastfeeding expert is being taken to Queensland's Civil and Administrative Tribunal after she criticised attempts at breastfeeding by trans women, so biological men. This practice involves biological men who have transitioned, taking hormones to stimulate milk production from an anatomically male breast. In a series of social media posts, Jasmine Sussex claims it's experimental and it's a dangerous fetish. This latest controversy comes after she was sacked by the Australian Breastfeeding Association back in 2021 and came on here on Credlin after she refused to use gender-neutral language like chest feeding rather than breastfeeding. But Ms Sussex has vowed she won't be silenced.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to discuss an Australian case. We all know about Tickle v Giggle. That case is currently being appealed. But now we have an Australian lactation consultant who's being taken to a tribunal in Queensland for daring to say that males who identify as trans attempting to breastfeed is wrong. She dared to condemn the act, saying that it's experimental and that it's a dangerous fetish. Now she's being taken to a tribunal by a trans-identified male. That this trans-identified male is married to a woman, biological female, who gave birth. That this person, who is male, is transitioning and is on hormones and began taking medications to lactate. And now this person has been given the baby, who's been taken away from their mother, who has perfectly good milk, as you would in the days after giving birth. You have colostrum, then you have your breast milk come in. This baby's been taken away from the mother and given to a male to breastfeed with whatever this person produces as a result of taking medication. If that's not experimental, I don't know what is. So a Victorian breastfeeding expert is facing legal action over a series of social media posts denying that transgender women can breastfeed. Jasmine Sussex is being taken to Queensland's Civil and Administrative Tribunal by a trans-identifying male for labelling attempts by such people to breastfeed as experimental and calling it a dangerous fetish. So Ms Sussex raised concerns about Jennifer Buckley, who was born male, is currently transitioning and taking hormones to grow breasts and induce lactation to breastfeed the newborn baby. So this person has claimed that Jasmine's comments are hurtful and has led to online abuse. Jasmine Sussex was sacked by the Australian Breastfeeding Association in 2021 after 15 years as a volunteer breastfeeding counsellor because she refused to use gender-neutral language. She told the Sunday Herald that she will not be silenced. Breastfeeding belongs exclusively to mothers and our babies, she said. So in 2019, it was an endocrinologist who asked Ms Buckley whether or not there was a desire to breastfeed, while the wife was 28 weeks pregnant. So Ms Buckley is the biological father. So this endocrinologist has deemed it appropriate for the biological father to breastfeed the child. On what planet is that ever considered appropriate? So on Facebook, Ms Buckley, the trans-identified male, who was the biological father, baby was conceived via IVF. This person said the following: for the past 6 weeks, I have been taking a drug called domperidone to increase prolactin in an attempt to be able to produce breast milk so that I have the experience of breastfeeding. So domperidone is traditionally an anti-nausea medication, and the Royal Women's Hospital in Melbourne provides support to these trans-identified males so they can breastfeed their children. Ms Buckley caused a social media storm after posting photos of breastfeeding the baby online. The backlash included comments from Ms Sussex, who labelled the practice cruel and unethical. This is Buckley's delusional queer theory take on his experience breastfeeding, she wrote online. So Jasmine Sussex received an email from the Queensland Human Rights Commission to advise her that they were investigating a complaint from Ms Buckley alleging vilification. The complaint attempts to scrub from the public record my mainstream concerns and criticisms about male breastfeeding. Ms Sussex said. This is absolutely horrendous. They're going all out to normalise this. At least over in the UK, they have now backtracked on their claims that the substance produced by these males that comes out of their chest is just as good as a mother's breast milk. At least they've backtracked on that over in the UK. But in Australia, it appears they're just getting started. And when we have judges, such as in the tickle versus giggle case, saying that sex is changeable, when is this going to end? So Jasmine said, I entirely reject the claim that my measured criticism of male breastfeeding incites hatred, serious contempt or severe ridicule towards him and other trans women. And the male, Miss Buckley, has claimed to be a loving mother of a beautiful little boy. And sadly, more than likely will grow up to be a very confused little boy, knowing that his biological father breastfed him. Nobody thinks about the impact this is going to have on the baby. Nobody thinks about the impact this is going to have on the baby's health, because this is experimental. And again, just like with the whole transitioning children, it's only in years to come when we see the repercussions. So I'm going to react to an interview that Jasmine was on with Sky News, and she explains the situation, and it's unbelievable, it really is.
I'm pleased to say, I'm delighted to say, the very brave Jasmine joins me now. We were talking in the break, weren't we? I mean, the world is crazy now. Were you surprised that you got this anti-discrimination complaint levelled at you?
I was, just because I have no relationship with this man, and he's been campaigning online for years, literally since he transitioned, to normalise this practice of trans women trying to induce lactation. And so it took the Queensland Human Rights Commission a long time to process his complaint. So I thought that he was accepting that there are different views in the community, but obviously not.
I think there's one big view in the community. I mean, most people would think that this is beyond the pale. I suspect in the medical community it's divided. I mean, you're a lactation specialist. How on earth does someone with male breasts lactate for a baby? And what quality of milk is that for an infant?
Yeah, well, we just really don't know. There's a handful of case reports that have been published in really the trans activist medical lobby, so in the endocrinology journals and in the trans health journals. So they really don't tell us anything other than the experience of that individual trans identifying man, you know, and what he claims. They're all self-reports, so no one's had them in a laboratory expressing milk, or, you know, we just don't know.
It always comes down to that. That's where these studies come from, these very biased, slanted studies that are there to basically convince people that this is okay, that this is normal even. It's absolutely sickening that they're trying to normalise this. They're sponsoring these studies. Again, like she said, they get these people who are involved in this and they talk about how wonderful the experience is for them. But we don't know the effects this is going to have on the babies. Long term, the effect it's going to have on the babies being separated from their mothers, from their biological mothers. This perfectly healthy milk is available, but they're deciding to separate the baby from the mother and giving the baby to a man, for the man to have an experience. What kind of sick world are we living in today?
Same quality as a woman's milk with colostrum and everything else that comes from that? Is it the same quality of breast milk?
Yeah, it seems very unlikely. You know, men who have disorders of the pituitary glands, the hormone centres that contribute to breastfeeding, can secrete a fluid from their chests, even if they haven't, you know, if they're not trans women. So,
yeah, men have been known to lactate. That's something that, you know, is a condition that a man has to deal with. That's not something to now use to say that we should normalise males breastfeeding.
You know, we know from that there's some things in that fluid that's similar to mother's milk, but one of the major problems seems to be that they only make starvation quantities of this fluid. And
so it'll be never enough to feed an infant.
No. So, and you also just have to ask, well, why? Why do they want to? And should we indulge that kind of selfish desire to use the baby to affirm their gender identity? That's really my concern. I think it's a safeguarding issue. And I also think, I'm sure it's a small group within the trans community who are advocating for this because everybody loves their children. But, really, we just need to protect the mother-baby dyad. They're the only ones that can, as a natural flow on of pregnancy, then they're able to breastfeed, and everybody else really needs to get out of the way.
Perfectly said. And to think that she's being taken to court, to a tribunal for speaking such truth, for speaking such sense, with compassion, for showing concern for mothers and babies. A baby's going to be put through a lot of distress, is going to have to work very hard to feel full, to be satisfied, and to feel secure, because there's bonding that only takes place between a mother and a baby. Obviously, a father bonds with the baby as well, but not in the same way as the mother. The mother is the baby's lifeline, and the baby seeks comfort and security from the mother, knowing that this is his source of food and comfort and warmth, and that's being taken away to affirm somebody's gender. That is cruel. This is not in the best interest of the baby. There's absolutely no way to show that this is in the baby's best interest. This is for the adult male and his desires. It's got nothing to do with putting the baby first and putting the mother first. She deserves an award for standing up for mothers and babies. She certainly doesn't deserve legal action. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.